Why does mass deportation persist no matter who is in office? The parties take turns enforcing the same policies. Democrats only find their outrage when Republicans are in power, and even then, it's mostly about tone. The system itself is never questioned. This is what it's like when a government uses its power to terrorize people, detaining them, removing them from their lives, and erasing their place in the community. It does not matter who is in office, and this is not about tone, it's not about optics, it is about policy choices that produce the same harm over and over again. For decades, both major parties have upheld mass deportation as normal. Sometimes they call it law and order, sometimes they call it humane enforcement, but the outcome never changes. Families are separated, communities are destabilized, people disappear into detention and removal. Thousands of people are still missing since being abducted by ICE or Border Patrol. And let's be clear about the history of mass deportation. Under Bill Clinton, deportations expanded dramatically. Nearly 864,000 removals took place during his presidency, driven in large part by the 1996 immigration laws that broadened who could be deported and stripped away due process. ICE didn't exist yet, but mass deportation absolutely did. Under George W. Bush, deportations increased further. About 2 million removals occurred during his administration, and in 2003, ICE was created. That agency did not appear in a vacuum. It was designed as a domestic enforcement arm built to normalize raids, detention, and fear's everyday governance. Then came Barack Obama. Over 3 million deportations, more than any modern president. His administration hit yearly highs of over 430,000 removals. Children were detained, families were separated. Photos of kids in cages and camps exist from this period. The difference was not the harm, it was the branding. Under Donald Trump in his first term, roughly 1.2 million formal removals took place. Trump was louder, crueler in presentation, but in raw numbers he did not exceed Obama, and yet Democrats suddenly discovered outrage, as if the system itself had not been functioning exactly as designed. Those of us on the left knew why Democrats did not have the outrage when Democrats were doing it. They lack principles beyond partisanship. They function as the faux left wing of a right wing system known as liberalism. And liberalism is a capitalist ideology, and capitalism is right wing. Most Democrats do not understand this. Some do, but most do not. Anyway, under Joe Biden, ICE reported over 270,000 removals in fiscal year 2024 alone, the highest annual number since 2014 and higher than any year under Trump's first term. This is not an exception, this is how the system works. ICE is not a deviation, it is a refinement of a deportation regime that predates it and outlives administrations. It exists to terrorize working class communities using the full weight of liberal governance and national security logic. And when the Democratic base and the progressive left say abolish ICE, the party responds by pretending they did not hear it. Take Tammy Baldwin, who said, Wisconsinites don't want their tax dollars funding masked, untrained ICE agents acting lawlessly in our communities and not being held to account, and I'm with them. No, you are not with us. You are to the right of us again. Because the problem is not the mass, it's not the training, it's not the lack of cameras, it's that the terror can continue as long as it looks nicer. Liberals treat ICE like a tool to be managed, not a system to be dismantled. They call it reform, but it's really just babysitting an agency that terrorizes people. For liberals, ICE is fine as long as it looks better in public. This is the logic of liberalism. Define the institution as necessary, pretend to manage its excesses, never challenge its existence. And even when Democrats point to their furthest left figures, the logic never breaks. Take Bernie Sanders, not a candidate anymore, but still treated as the moral ceiling of Democratic progressivism. In October 2025 on The Tim Dillon Show, Sanders said that when you do not have a border, you do not have a nation. He went further and argued that Donald Trump did a better job securing the border than past Democratic or Republican administrations.
Here and tell you that over so long as we have nation states, right, which we have, you got to have borders, right?
Right.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right? In a sense. So has historically the United States done well under Democrats and Republicans in protecting the border? The answer is no. Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period. I think most people in the Congress agree with that.
Now we see Republicans using Bernie Sanders' border talking point verbatim at the 2026 State of the Union.
Between where we are as a nation divided. A nation without laws, a nation without borders, a nation without citizens isn't a nation at all.
Once borders are treated as sacred, once enforcement is assumed to be necessary, once deportation is accepted as legitimate, the only debate left is efficiency. At that point, praising Trump is not a contradiction. It is the inevitable conclusion. The nation being defended here is not neutral. It is a settler colonial project built on displacement and exclusion. This is the ceiling of democratic progressivism. Even at its most left, the party defends borders, defends removal, and defends enforcement. The disagreement is never about whether people should be displaced, only how politely. And if you think modern Democrats are any better on class war, homelessness, or colonialism, look at Gavin Newsom. Newsom is a right winger in blue. Recently, after an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good in Minneapolis, Newsom's own press office tweeted that this amounted to state-sponsored terrorism. Later, when conservative commentator Ben Shapiro pressed him about that language, Newsom agreed that ICE agents are not terrorists, and that the original phrasing makes our politics worse, walking back his own critique and conceding rhetorical ground to fascists. He also recently tried to present himself as relatable to Southern, mostly black voters by saying he was a 960 SAT guy and that he couldn't read. At the same time, he argues that Democrats need to become more normal culturally and stop talking about pronouns. This is not outreach, it's mockery, and this is abandonment. He seeks to abandon the oppressed and punish them under the weight of failed liberal and capitalist policies. He supports ICE remaining intact. He signs reforms that regulate appearance while leaving removals untouched. He tears down homeless encampments in the name of order, displacing people and calling it compassion. He does not confront displacement. He administers it. The colonizers will never fix the issues that plague this society. The system that created mass migration, homelessness, and racialized poverty cannot reform itself. It will collapse before it ever delivers justice. This is not a mistake. It is what happens when a party refuses to confront the roots of mass migration, homelessness, and racism, which is colonialism and capitalism. And colonialism gave birth to capitalism, which expanded through imperialism, destabilized entire regions, and produced the mass migration that follows today. Anyway, to keep things democratic here, we can quote Hillary Clinton.
Migration has been a huge flashpoint. More people were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year of Trump's second term.
Secretary
There is
Clinton.
a legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people.
She also claimed that more people were deported under her husband and Barack Obama without killing people or putting children in detention camps. Can you think of anything more disgusting than someone claiming they carried out mass deportation in an ethical and moral way? Besides, that claim is false. Children were detained, families were separated, camps existed. Calling it humane does not erase the harm. It just makes liberal governance feel more comfortable while upholding structures of mass deportation, colonialism, and white supremacy. And the result is always the same: war on the working class of this continent and every other by the American ruling class and its competitively controlled politicians. Local elections can serve as a stage, a place to popularize socialist and communist ideas, organize unions, and build power among tenants and workplaces. They are not about reforming the system, they are about disrupting it where possible and trying to have some say in the local scene. But if you build dual power, which I've discussed in a previous video, you create an alternative government to report to and continue forming it. So what we learned here today is this: mass deportation, ICE, and the terror of displacement are not accidents, and they do not depend on who is in office. Democrats and Republicans alike enforce the same policies, just with different branding. Families are ripped apart, communities are destabilized, thousands are still missing, Outrage is selective, reform is cosmetic. The system was designed to uphold wealth, privilege, and colonial structures, not to serve people. Even the so-called left within the Democratic Party, figures like Bernie Sanders or Gavin Newsom, reiterate the same logic, whether by praising borders, walking back harsh critiques of ICE, or softening language under pressure. The machinery of deportation, homelessness, and racialized oppression grinds on, and no reform, tone, or PR campaign will stop it. So what do? We demand more. We don't cede ground to fascists or liberals. We build power ourselves through unions, tenant organizing, mutual aid, abolitionist work, and dual power structures that answer to the people, not the ruling class. Stop waiting for the system to save you. Organize, resist, fight back, because if we don't, nothing will change. Thank you for listening.